Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
My wife, Sherry, thought that I didn't know about her plans. She thought I was stupid, or at least ignorant of her burgeoning love affair with her coworker, Todd. She believed that I would allow her to cuckold me and that I would put up with her fucking him so that I could remain her husband. She had another thing coming. Little did she know that I had been suspecting her for some time. I had noticed the changes, the telltale signs of infidelity, things like frequently working late, sexy upgrades to her wardrobe, more aggressive sex, and losing all interest in all of the things about which we used to care. I tried to talk to her about it on several occasions, but every time I did, my concerns fell on deaf ears. Sherry, of course, denied that anything was amiss. She said it was just my insecurity and my possessiveness working overtime. So, I had little choice but to hire an investigator. I refused to remain blind to the truth. I would never tolerate my wife cheating on me. I had made that point abundantly clear from the start of our relationship and reiterated it many times over the 10 years of our marriage. So, it was with mixed emotions that I sat in the office of Jake Sloan, private investigator, and received his report. I felt relief when he made it clear that Sherry had not been unfaithful. However, that relief was short-lived as he added the word, yet. As he explained it, my wife was having a romantic affair. It just had not progressed to something sexual, but that was only a matter of time. It seems that Sherry and Todd were what might be called work spouses. I hated that term. Sherry had only one spouse, me. Some may find the expression cute and harmless, but to me, it implied that she had an intimate relationship with someone else. Well, as it turned out, she had precisely that. According to the PI report, Sherry and Todd had lunch together every day, just the two of them. They would hold hands and sit close together. He provided numerous photographs of the two of them hugging, even sharing the occasional kiss. I was enraged by what I saw and wanted to choke the smug prick, Todd. In addition to lunches, the lovebirds would work late together frequently, even though there was no valid reason to do so. It was as if they wanted to avoid going home to their respective spouses and milk as much time out of each day as possible. The PI told me he had been able to monitor Sherry's emails and texts. I knew it was highly illegal and I would never be able to use it in a divorce. But in our state, divorcing for adultery was possible, but difficult. No-fault divorces were much easier, and for that, I didn't need to use the proof anyway. I just wanted it for my purposes. Sloan refused to give me copies of the actual messages. He wouldn't even let me see them. Instead, he offered me a summary of what they contained. He assured me that at no time had my wife talked disparagingly of me. On a few occasions, Todd had tried to belittle me, but Sherry wouldn't let him. Well, I suppose it could have been worse. The emails and texts confirmed that they were romantically involved, though neither had professed their love. Their conversations were very sexual, bordering on sexting. Todd had sent my wife pictures of his dick, which she was thrilled about, reciprocating with shots of her bare tits. As far as Sloan could tell, she had not yet sent any pussy pics. As I was sitting there in his office, thinking about my next steps, Sloan hit me with the worst news yet. Todd's wife was going out of town to visit her mother for a 3-day weekend. The paramours decided to use the opportunity to meet and consummate their relationship. The only thing in their way was me. They weren't sure how they could spend the night together if I were still around. Since I wasn't going out of town, it would be nearly impossible to get away with it. They had considered a variety of plans. One was to tell me that Sherry was going on a girls-only trip for the weekend. She was afraid I would talk to one of her friends and find out the truth. She didn't want to enlist anyone to create a viable cover story, so that idea was out. Next, they considered getting me to go out of town. I bitterly laughed when I remembered Sherry suggesting that I organize a golf trip with my buddies. I wasn't interested, which shot that option down too. Finally, they came up with a novel, but direct approach, honesty. Todd believed that I was a cuckold in the making, and that I would do anything to keep Sherry as my loving, happy wife, including let her have a fling with another man. Somehow, he got Sherry to believe that by fucking him, she would be helping to improve our sex life and our relationship. He convinced her that all she had to do was tell me what she had planned to do with Todd, and I would give in and let her do it. Clearly, the asshole didn't know me, but what surprised me most was that Sherry bought into his bullshit. She had to know there was no way I would put up with it. If she didn't realize it, then she was mentally unstable. Sloan told me that was all the evidence they had, so I took what he gave me and went home. I asked him to continue to monitor Sherry's messages and let me know if anything developed. On Friday, Sloan called and informed me that Sherry was going to confront me the following Monday after work. She planned to tell me that she was going to go out on a date with Todd that Friday night. This date would start dinner and dancing, but end with the pair spending the night in a hotel room, fucking their brains out. Considerately, she would return home to me on Saturday, or maybe Sunday, depending on how much sex they had. Sherry and Todd had rehearsed her entire speech, and they convinced themselves that I would accept her demands. They knew I would be upset, even angry, at first. But Sherry planned to assure me it was just a one-time thing, even though they both knew it wasn't. She would try to tell me that afterward, she would have sex with me as a reward for my being so understanding. Knowing that Sherry and I have not had sex in months, she assumed I would be so happy to have Todd's sloppy seconds that I would accede to her desires. How nice of them to think of my needs. I only had 2 days to prepare for the confrontation. Sherry and Todd are jokingly referring to it as the intervention. I would be damned if it would go the way she envisioned. I decided that I would turn their intervention into my interdiction. I spent the weekend going through scenario after scenario, trying to figure out what I was going to do and how I could fix my marriage. First, I had to decide if I wanted to fix it. I wasn't sure if I did. As I thought about how I felt about Sherry, my plan of actions developed organically. I became resolved to deal with it directly and end things for good. When we were first married, Sherry and I seemed blissfully happy. We spent all our time together, sharing everything that we went through in life. She was my best friend and my best lover. Somehow, that all seemed to fade. Maybe that's the way of all things. Nothing lasts forever. Perhaps my view of marriage was rather old-fashioned and idealized. I had thought we would be a team, going through life together, fighting side by side against the trials and tribulations that came our way. Sherry and I had both been married before, unsuccessfully. If this marriage failed, too, maybe the problem wasn't us. Maybe it was the institution of marriage itself. How could people expect to maintain feelings, desires, interests, and passion when fate insists on being fickle and finding ways to change everything and everyone? In a world of 30-second soundbites, rapidly evolving culture, social media, and instant gratification, maybe marriage, like the dinosaurs and compact discs, had become obsolete. I thought, if Sherry wants to be with Todd, maybe I should just let her. Then I snapped out of it and came to my senses. No fucking way was I going to let her cuckold me. I might not want her anymore, but I would be damned if I would let Todd get over on me by claiming my wife. Fuck that. I was ready to fight when my wife called me just after lunch on Monday. Hey Sherry, I began the call. Everything okay? You never call me at work anymore. I hope nothing's wrong. Hi honey, she responded. Honey? Really? Did she use that epithet with Todd too? Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to make sure you're going to be home on time today. I have something really important to talk with you about, so I need you to be there. Oh, okay. I replied, then added, yeah, that's good because I have some big news to tell you, too. I should be home by 5:15 or so. Will that work? She didn't answer right away. When she did, it was to dig for information. Big news? Like what? She asked. I'll tell you tonight, I said, then decided to end the call. I hate to run, but I'm in the middle of my monthly report. I need to get it done so that I can leave on time. See you at home. I hung up and walked down the hall to my boss' office to let him know that I was taking the rest of the day off. He was okay with it, which was good. I had a few things I needed to prepare for the interdiction. Chapter 3. I was sitting at the kitchen table when at 5:27, I heard the garage door opening. I was nervous, but also very angry. I was trying hard to maintain a calm exterior, while my interior surged in rage with raw emotions. I had an open bottle of Sauvignon Blanc on ice with 2 glasses ready to go. 2 minutes later the door opened, and Sherry walked in, alone, and dropped her keys and purse on the countertop. I was relieved that she hadn't brought Todd with her. That would have complicated things. I smiled. Hi honey, I said, repeating the term of endearment she had used earlier in the day. Welcome home. Do you need some time before we talk, or do you want to jump right in? She was taken aback by my immediate desire to talk. I guess she figured we would get to it eventually, and wasn't ready to get into it so quickly. I wasn't going to let her get the upper hand. I wanted to keep her on her toes and unprepared. She had everything she planned to do and say worked out in detail, so I had to be as disruptive as possible. I wasn't expecting you to be sitting here waiting, but yeah, I guess the sooner we get started, the sooner we can go on with our evening, Sherry said as she walked over and sat down across from me. I'd like to go first with my news if that's okay with you. Do you mind? I asked rather forcefully. No, she said, hesitantly, that's fine. Good. Would you care for a glass of wine? I asked. I didn't wait for her to answer. I poured us both a glass and placed one in front of her. Yeah, that would be great, she said, letting out a sigh as she raised the glass and drank half. I topped off her glass as soon as she put it down. So, this is something that I've given a lot of thought, I began. I'm not going to beat around the bush. There's no sense in dragging it out. I paused, deliberately, trying to build the tension. It worked. Sherry sat forward in her chair and stared at me intently. What is it? She asked. I want a divorce, I stated directly, then waited for it to sink in. It took about 3 seconds. Sherry's face gave away her thoughts and emotions. First, she was confused, like she didn't understand the words I spoke. Then, the realization of what I said sunk in, and she was shocked. Fear and concern quickly replaced surprise. She was worried that I might know about her affair with Todd. Why? She asked, afraid of the answer. I don't love you anymore, I said. It looked as if I had stabbed Sherry in the chest. You what? She asked, struggling with my declaration. I fell out of love with you, Sherry. I don't remember exactly when I stopped loving you. I lied. I knew precisely when. It's been a long time coming. I tried to ignore it for as long as I could. But lately, it's just been harder and harder not to face the truth. What are you talking about? She asked. She looked like she was going to cry. I was surprised by her reaction. Do you remember when we first got married? I asked. Remember how we spent all our free time together? If we went anywhere, the grocery store, a movie, to the mall, anything, we did it together. It was like we couldn't stand to be apart. She nodded. I remember, Sherry said. We both had jobs, but we would make a special point to have lunch at least twice a week. And we couldn't wait for work to get over with so that we could rush home to be together. I missed you so much every day and looked forward to coming home to you, kissing you, and more often than not, making love to you. We shared our hobbies. You got me to attend those silly pottery classes with you. Did you know how much I loved doing that with you? I thought you hated doing pottery, Sherry said, staring at me. It wasn't about the pottery, it was about sharing an experience with you, I told her. I loved every minute of that. I enjoyed watching you do it and helping you with it. I was in awe of your enthusiasm. It was the same with painting those damned Christmas Village buildings. We had bought about a dozen of these little unpainted buildings that we painted together to make a display for Christmas. It was tedious, but we had a blast doing it. Yours were always better than mine, Sherry said. Remember how many nights we spent together here at the table dabbing paint on roof tiles? Sherry nodded again. I loved you so much then. We also spent hour upon hour coloring those big posters you picked up on the trip to Myrtle Beach. That was long before adult coloring books were all the rage. We still have hundreds of those colored pens. But, like our love, they've all dried up. Sherry cringed visibly. My love hasn't dried up, she fired back defensively. I ignored her and pressed on. All our friends used to talk about how envious they were of us. We did everything together. We would take long walks daily, holding hands. If I needed to run to the hardware store to get a refill on trimmer string for the weed whacker, you would come with me. If you wanted to go shopping for clothes, I'd tag along and wait for you outside the changing room. Yeah, but you hated that, she challenged me. You would be on your phone constantly. You weren't looking at the clothes with me. No, I wasn't, I agreed. I didn't care about what you picked. I thought you were beautiful in everything. I was there to be with you. I could have stayed home and watched sports. We would talk about how the other women in the neighborhood all got together to play bunco or have girls' nights out, but you never wanted to go. Do you remember what you told me about why you didn't participate? Sherry wiped a tear from her cheek. Yes, I remember. You said that you didn't want to go hang out with a bunch of hens when you could hang out with me instead. Many nights we would cuddle under a blanket and watch You've Got Mail. I love that movie, Sherry said, fighting back the tears. We must have watched it at least 100 times, I said as I refilled her wine glass. Again, I still want to watch it with you. Sherry cried out. I don't want to get a divorce. I thought we would grow old together, taking cooking lessons, doing ballroom dancing, or just laying in bed reading books, anything, as long as we were with each other. But we've drifted apart, Sherry. I don't know when it started, exactly, I said, looking deeply into my wife's eyes. We went from lunches 2 or 3 days a week to a weekly lunch date. That had been Sherry's doing. She had told me one day that she didn't have time to take lunch outside the office so often. That had been a lie. She still was eating outside, only she was choosing to do it with someone else. Then before we knew it, we stopped having lunch together completely. I started joining my coworkers for lunch. In time, I found myself enjoying their company, probably too much. I was exaggerating, but I was going out of my way to avoid casting blame Sherry's way. I didn't want to put her on the defensive and start fighting back. This conversation could very quickly deteriorate or turn into a pissing match. That was not my goal, not yet. Anyway, then, getting home early to spend time with each other stopped being as important. We found ourselves working later and later. When we did finally come home, we were often distant or distracted. Why didn't you ever say anything about it? Sherry asked. If I had known it was important to you, I would have tried to have lunch with you more often or not work late so much. You're right, I said, agreeing with her, even though I did bring it up many, many times. I wish I had been able to figure out why being with me wasn't important to you. Maybe if I had, I could have changed or done something so that you would want to spend more time with me. I think I failed, badly, in that regard. I was making it seem like I was taking responsibility for our drifting apart. This was far from the truth. I knew that if I hit Sherry with Todd first, we would not get through the discussion without it becoming ugly. I'd never get her to see my side of things. It would be me being a controlling, jealous asshole. Before I revealed what I knew, I wanted her to remember what we had and to think about her role in destroying it. Gradually, we stopped doing almost everything together. You started going to your girls' night out parties. I started going to poker nights. You would go to the spa on the weekends. I would go golfing. Sherry, we could go days without even having more than a superficial conversation about the weather or the latest news. Our sex life started to suffer too. Often we were too tired or not in the mood. When we first got married, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. We would have sex 4 or 5 days a week, often multiple times a day. I would fondle you while you were cooking, and we would skip dinner and fuck all night. We go out to the hot tub all the time, always getting into some naughty fun. We haven't even turned the hot tub on in over a year. I didn't think you wanted to have sex anymore, Sherry countered. I have no idea where she got that idea. I think she was rationalizing her behavior by trying to make it my fault. Oh, God, no, I said with a chuckle. I never stopped wanting to have sex. I'm every bit as horny now as I was 10 years ago. I just stopped wanting to have sex with you. I knew that would cut deeply. She had thought that she had rejected me sexually, and here I was telling her that our lack of sex was because I didn't want to fuck her. I could almost laugh if I weren't hurting so badly. What? Sherry asked, her voice cracking. I don't think she expected me to say that. You didn't want to have sex with me? I lost all interest in fucking you, I said point blank. You were a cold fish. You would just lay there. You never wanted to do anything exciting or remotely naughty. It felt like you wanted it to be over quickly, so you could go back to something more interesting, like knitting. The whole time, I still wanted the weekend-long sex marathons like we used to have. Hell, you didn't even want me to give you orgasms. Sex with you was boring, Sherry. You didn't even realize it. But the last few times I fucked you, I faked coming just to get it over with. You did not. Sherry argued. You came in me. No, don't you remember? You insisted I use condoms for sex, even though you were on birth control. You said it was easier to clean up that way since my cum wouldn't be dripping out of you for hours. I told you I didn't like using condoms, but you insisted. You never looked at the condoms, so faking it was easy. I just grunted a bit, rolled off, and threw the empty condom away. I got more pleasure from jerking off than fucking you. You what? She shouted. She seemed utterly mortified by the possibility that I didn't enjoy sex with her. Good. My plan was working. Sorry, Sherry, I said, digging the knife deeper. It's me, not you. She stared at me for a few moments. Her tears had dried up, and her face was red. I wasn't sure if it was from anger, frustration, or embarrassment. I filled her empty wine glass. She picked it up and took a long swig. It was just a matter of time, I continued, before we would start finding someone else with whom we wanted to spend our time. I didn't mean me, but she didn't know that. Suddenly, she spoke angrily. Are you cheating on me? Have you fallen in love with someone else? Sherry, you know how I feel about infidelity. I swore a vow to you when we got married, and I take that vow seriously. I know your first husband cheated on you, just like my first wife fucked a coworker behind my back. I would never do that to you, just like I know you would never sink so low as to try to cuckold me by fucking another man. How could you think that I would do that? I'm sorry, she apologized. You're right. I know you wouldn't do that. She looked guilty and couldn't meet my eyes. Her hands were shaking. We're waiting until we get divorced to fuck the first time, I stated, implying strongly that I had a new love interest. Which gets me back to my big news. I've already met with a lawyer and drawn up the papers. You should be served on Friday. Wait, what? She asked, growing frantic. I said you'll be served on Friday, with divorce papers. I told her, trying not to grin. It's for the best. That way you can have your freedom back and do what you want. So can I. We can admit that the last 10 years were a waste of our time and move on. They weren't a waste of time to me, she snapped. Oh, come on, Sherry, I said. I think you want this just as much as I do. I mean, let's be real. You haven't wanted to be with me for a long time. Our wedding was a mistake. I'm not the man you want to be with. Yes, you are, she argued. I don't want a divorce. You can't just get a divorce because you want to. I don't want to divorce you. I want to be married to you. Forever. I love you. I'm sorry, Sherry, but I don't love you anymore. This is a no-fault divorce state, so we can just split all the assets 50-50. I mean, it is remotely possible to get more than half of the assets, but that's only if one of us were to cheat and we could absolutely prove adultery. But neither of us is cheating or likely to do so before Friday, right? So we can make a clean break. I'd like you to come to the bank with me tomorrow so we can divide the money from all our accounts evenly. We'll have to open new accounts, get new credit cards, and change all the utilities. And we'll have to sell the house. I have a realtor coming on Wednesday to get it listed for us. Wait, Sherry shouted. You're moving too fast. I don't know what to do. Please stop. She started crying again. Don't worry. I already packed my bags and will be staying in a hotel room from now until I can move into permanent place. You can stay here until the house sells. Wait. God damn it. Sherry yelled. Please, wait. There's no need to wait, I said. Right? We shouldn't put this off any longer. I mean, we need to get it all taken care of before Friday, don't we? Why? What's so damned important about Friday? She demanded. Well, Friday is when you're going out on the date with your boyfriend, Todd, right? Isn't that the day the two of you are planning to spend the night in the hotel together and fuck all night? Sherry froze. Her eyes looked like they were about to pop out of her head. Her mouth hung open, like a dying fish. She tried to speak, but only a sputtering sound came out. Did I have the day wrong? Hang on, I said as I pulled the manila folder out from under a stack of Better Homes and Gardens magazines and flipped it open. I pulled out the summary sheet from the private investigator's report and slid it between us, showing it to Sherry. I pointed out the part that talked about her plans for fucking Todd Friday night. Nope, I'm right. See, it says right here, you and Todd have reservations at the Gaylord Texan for this Friday night. It's not Dash, she started, but I cut her off. It's not what it looks like? I asked her, completing the sentence for you. Oh, do I need to show you the photographs of you and Todd making out at lunch? She stared at me as the tears flowed again. I'm sorry, she said softly. Now I remember when it was I stopped loving you. I said with a big smile on my face. I stopped loving you the day I found out you were planning to turn me into a cuckold with your coworker, just like my ex-wife. I'm sorry, honey, she blurted out, trying desperately to convince me I don't love Todd. It was just going to be a fling, something to spice up our relationship. I would go be with him for the night, then you, and I would have the rest of the weekend to have hot sex like we used to. Todd said you would like it, that it would turn you on and rekindle our sexuality. Yeah, that's how to spice up our sex life. Instead of having hot sex with me, you spice things up by fucking someone else. That makes perfect sense. No, but, well, Dash, she couldn't even get the sentence out. She changed tactics. Todd said you would do it if you want me to be happy. I want you to be happy, I said. I want you to be happy with me, like we were once. I don't want you to be happy with some other man. Did you become stupid or something? How could you think I would be okay with this? You had to know how I feel about infidelity. I did, but she struggled for some way to rationalize her actions. This wouldn't be infidelity. I wouldn't be cheating. You would give me your permission. Not in this lifetime, I said. I know that, now. I should have realized it all along. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was bored and lonely. Todd got me excited again. Bored and lonely? How could you be bored and lonely when we were happily in love and enjoyed all our time together? I don't know, but Dash, she began again. Did you ever stop to think that you were bored and lonely because you cut us off? You stopped having lunch with me. You stopped spending time with me and doing things with me. You chose to avoid me and put yourself in that situation. You chose to spend your time with him instead of me. So, if you were bored and lonely, you created that condition specifically so Todd could take away the boredom and loneliness. I don't think I did that, she said as she stared at me. She shook her head. No, I can't believe I would do that. I thought you stopped coming to have lunch with me. Because you told me to. Don't you remember? You kept telling me you were too busy. Then, one Wednesday, our lunch date day, I showed up to pick you up, and you didn't even bother to come to the lobby to tell me you couldn't go. You texted me to go on and eat lunch without you. I stopped coming after that, and you never once even brought up the fact that we stopped having lunch. I don't think you even realized it. Sherry looked down at her hands. I didn't. You were so caught up in your world to notice you were losing me. You were all about you and Todd. Well, now you can have him. I don't want him, she fired back, looking up at me. I want you. I want us. I want us like we used to be. I'm sorry. I fucked up. I gave up on us. It's too late, I said, shaking my head. You can't mean that. I haven't cheated on you. We haven't done anything. I won't see him again. I swear it. I'll quit my job. I'll go to work someplace else. Please, I don't want to lose you. I still love you. You cheated on me every way a wife can, except one. But that's the most important one. We didn't have sex. I was stupid. I was infatuated with Todd. I didn't love him. I only ever loved you. I don't know what I was thinking. I would have gotten over him and come back to you once I got it out of my system. But it's over now. I see it now. I know. It was stupid. I was stupid. Todd doesn't mean anything to me. Please, baby, please. Don't leave me. It isn't that easy, Sherry. Why can't it be? I fucked up. I did. But you stopped me before I went too far. You already went too far. I disagreed. Having sex only would have sealed the deal. I didn't do anything. We were only friends, she exclaimed. You were supposed to be friends with me, more than someone else, I countered. I have a lot of female friends. I don't kiss them. I never took our time to spend with them. I never replaced you with them, and I never once plotted to fuck them and coerce you into accepting it. Sherry lowered her head into her hands, sobbing openly. I'll never neglect you or take you for granted again. I swear it. Please, can't we treat this as a big mistake? Can't you forgive me and give me another chance? This is not fucking Monopoly where you can get a jail out of free card, I told her. You didn't just make a big mistake. You forsook our love and gave your heart to another man. No, he never had my heart. My heart was always yours. And you were going to give him your body. But I didn't. You stopped me. Damn it. Don't you love me enough to fight for me? Do I mean that little to you? You meant everything to me. I would have fought anyone for you. I would have died for you. Now, I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. Sherry let out a shrieking wail. She grabbed my hands and tried to pull me to her. No, Please. You can't mean that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You have to believe me. I believe you're sorry, I said. That shows me you're not a completely self-absorbed and heartless bitch. Then, can you give me another chance? Please, I'm begging you. Please don't throw me away. I'm not throwing you away, Sherry. You did it for me. I truly do believe you're sorry. I do. Maybe someday I can forgive you. But it doesn't change anything. I do not love you any longer. It's over. But, don't worry, you always have Todd to comfort you. Todd's married, she said between sobs. He only wanted to fuck me. He didn't want a relationship. I chuckled. Well, he may have a change of heart now. I'm sure his wife had a lot to say to him today when he got home. She and I are using the same divorce lawyer. Sherry's mouth fell open again. I pushed the manila folder across the table to her. The full report from the investigator is in here, along with the photos of you and Todd. His wife has a copy. Also in there is all the information from my attorney about the divorce and how we propose to divide the assets. I suggest you read it all over. No, baby, please, she begged, don't do this. If you do want to go to the bank with me tomorrow, call me and let me know. I got up from the table and walked out of the house to the sound of my wife crying. Epilogue. Sherry fought the divorce. I didn't want a lengthy or expensive legal battle. So when the judge suggested we go to marriage counseling, I agreed. The counseling helped more than I expected. Sherry and I got in touch with our feelings. We communicated about everything, openly and judgment-free. She was able to come to understand why she had fallen prey to Todd's advances and nearly lost me in our marriage in the process. I was able to explain my pain and the humiliation she caused me. The counselor was proud of the progress we made. After a few sessions, I moved back into the house. We had hot makeup sex several times. Sherry was very willing to do anything I wanted sexually, from swallowing when she blew me, to anal sex to even offering to bring one of her girlfriends into our bed for a two-girl threesome. I never took her up on the offer. Sometimes, it's the thought that counts. After a year, we were back to the loving couple we had been when we first got married. Sherry had changed jobs and now worked at my company. We rode to and from work together and had lunch together every day. We didn't do it because we felt obligated or controlled. We did it because we wanted to be together. In fact, we did almost everything together. We broke out the little Christmas village and finished off painting two of the pieces we had abandoned years before. We signed up for another pottery class and enrolled in ballroom dancing. I even found the box with all of the colored pins. Much to my surprise, they hadn't dried up after all. One evening, as we cuddled under a blanket, eating popcorn and watching You've Got Mail, Sherry kissed me and said, "Thank you for giving me a second chance." I smiled at my loving wife and told her, that's what you do when you love someone. She bit her lip, then spoke up. Honey, I do have something important I need to talk to you about, though. I could see tears welling up in her eyes. I felt my heart skip a beat and panic start to set in. Before I could say anything, Sherry continued, I'm pregnant. You're going to be a daddy. I smiled and wiped the tears from her cheek, saying with my best Tom Hanks impression, don't cry, shop girl. Okay. So, I'm a sucker for a happy ending. Sue me.
Dear listener, if you have reached this far, please click on the subscribe button. It will be a great help.